Hey guys, tonight we're diving into They Should Have Frozen to Death, but medieval peasants had a secret. Forget everything Hollywood told you, this is the real story, and trust me, you probably wouldn't last a day. So before you get too comfortable, hit that like button if you enjoy this kind of deep dive, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Now, dim the lights, maybe grab a snack, and let's jump in. It's January, the year, somewhere around 1347, and you are cold. Not, ugh, someone turn up the thermostat cold. You're cold in your teeth, cold behind your eyeballs, cold in places you didn't know could be cold. There's a thin layer of frost inside your one-room cottage. The wind howls through the gaps in your wooden walls, like a banshee with bronchitis. You roll over on your straw mattress, which crackles like a bag of potato chips, and snuggle closer to your family. Yes, all of them. Mum, dad, baby, cousin, dog, possibly a chicken. You don't question it. It's warm. This is your life, and yet you survive. Not by accident, not by miracle, because your people, they had tricks. Tricks that sound insane, gross, or just plain genius, depending on how desperate you are to not die of hypothermia. First, there's layering. Not your sleek, moisture-wicking Patagonia layers. No, you're rocking a tunic over a shirt, over another tunic stuffed with moss or hay, held together with a belt you found beside a dead guy on the road. Stylish. No, effective, actually, yes. Then there's the bed sharing. It wasn't just about cuddles, it was physics. Body heat, trapped under wool, straw, and probably at least one live animal. You were the heating system. And when that didn't work, you huddled. You turned sleep into strategy. But all of this is just the beginning. Because surviving the night is one thing. But what about the morning ritual, when the fire's out, when the ice in your water bucket is thicker than your roof, when someone has to go outside to relieve themselves and hopes they don't freeze midstream? So how did peasants keep warm without fireplaces in every room? What did they actually eat when the earth was frozen solid? And who thought it was a good idea to insulate walls with manure? Well, that's where things get even weirder. Let's step outside, carefully. One icy slip and it's all over. And just wait till you see what's buried under the snow behind the barn. You step outside, instant regret. The wind slaps your face like an angry nun. Your breath turns to mist, then to ice, then, possibly, to regret about every decision that led to this moment. Your boots, oh sweet summer child, those aren't boots. They're scraps of leather, tied with string, stuffed with straw, and soggy from yesterday's snowmelt that somehow turned to slush inside your shoe. But here's the thing. Even in the middle of this medieval icebox, you notice something off. There's no panic, no frenzied wood chopping, no one screaming, "We're all gonna freeze," like you'd expect from people with zero insulation and exactly one blanket between 6 of them. Instead, there's a quiet rhythm. Smoke drifts lazily from a hole in the roof. Someone's churning a pot of suspiciously grey stew. A pig waddles by, unbothered, because the real secret wasn't the clothes, or the hay, or even the terrifying family snuggle pile. It was routine. Winter was not a surprise to them. It was a season, a hard one, yes, but one they planned for like a military campaign. In autumn, they'd insulate the walls, not with fancy foam, but with literal dung plaster. Yes, cow poo, mixed with mud and straw. Gross, yes. Effective, also yes. It sealed the gaps, trapped the heat, repelled the rats, gave the place a certain earthy vibe. And then there's the fire trick. one central hearth, always burning, but firewood is scarce, and forests are adorned. So what do? You bank the coals under ashes overnight, preserving just enough embers to spark a flame in the morning. A medieval slow cooker, except it keeps your family from dying. And food. Oh, we'll talk food. Just know this, you haven't truly suffered until you've eaten 60-old pottage made of cabbage, oats, and something that might have once been a squirrel. Still, you're alive, you're surviving, and winter's just getting started. But now that you've braved the frost and smelled the walls, it's time to face something even more terrifying. The bath. Yes, they bathed in winter, sort of, sometimes, kind of. And when they did, things got steamy. In the worst possible way. Bath time. You'd think that in the dead of winter, no one in their right mind would willingly get naked, dunk themselves in water, and risk turning into a medieval popsicle. And yet, here you are, shivering, barefoot, about to lower yourself into a barrel of lukewarm water that's already been used by 3 of your relatives, including Uncle Ealdord, who hasn't changed his tunic since Michaelmas. Welcome to the communal family bath. Yes, it's as awful as it sounds. Yes, it smells like boiled onions and feet. And no, there is no soap. Just a bit of lye and a prayer. But it wasn't just about getting clean. Bathing, even this nightmare version of it, was warmth. Steam filled the hut, temporarily fogging the windows and giving your fingers a break from the numbness. For a few brief, soggy minutes, it was almost cozy. Then the water turned cold, and your little sibling peed in it, and the dream died. Still, you felt alive. You were doing what every peasant had to do, outlasting winter, one soggy foot at a time, and you hadn't even gotten to the worst part yet. The night shift. See, you don't sleep 8 hours straight. That's modern fantasy. In medieval life, sleep came in shifts. First sleep, then the midnight hours, where you woke up, stoked the fire, maybe prayed, maybe gossiped, maybe other things. Let's just say, a surprising amount of babies were conceived when it was too cold to do anything else. And speaking of babies, how did they survive? How did they not freeze, wrapped in thin linens, under a thatched roof, with icicles growing on the beams? The answer is so unexpected, so oddly brilliant, and so slightly disgusting. You might actually thank a medieval diaper. But before we get to baby pee, medieval midnight snacks, and the one-item peasants hoarded more than firewood, let's head to the attic. There's something hiding up there, something soft, something sacred, and possibly full of fleas. You climbed the ladder, well, not a ladder, exactly. More like a series of creaky boards nailed to a wall at odd angles. Every step groans like it's about to snap, and the higher you go, the more the cold creeps back in. Welcome to the attic, also known as the peasant's last line of defense. It's dark, it's cramped, and it smells like old cheese and mildew. You bang your head on a beam that may or may not have actual mushrooms growing on it. But then you see it. A stash. Wool, bundles of it. Rough, scratchy, homemade wool, tucked into every corner, every crevice, every cracked rafter, like some kind of medieval insulation system. You press your hand into one of the piles. It's dry, warmish, smells like a sheep's armpit, but you're not complaining. And right next to it, a bundle of dried herbs, sage, rosemary, lavender, if they were lucky. Not for seasoning food. No, for repelling fleas. Because what's warmth without a few thousand tiny, jumping bloodsuckers to share it with? Now here's the thing most people don't know. Peasants didn't just survive winter. They planned for it like doomsday preppers, hoarding, drying, layering, stuffing, patching, boiling, storing. Every single action, from autumn to deep February, was part of a larger, ancient choreography of not dying. And the attic. It wasn't just storage, it was a lifeline. Here, you kept the spare bedding, the dried food, the mystery cheese, the salted meat, and yes, sometimes even a sleeping child or two, curled up in the hay like little human hedgehogs. But as you're up there, you hear it, a sound you've come to dread. The low, slow crack of ice shifting on the roof, the wind slipping through the thatch, and from below, a cough. Not just any cough, that cough, the wet, rattling one. The kind that says something worse than winter just walked through the door. Because warmth wasn't the only thing medieval peasants had to fight for. There were other enemies, quieter, deadlier, and they didn't always knock. But that's a story that starts with the town well, and ends with a cart, a bell, and a phrase you were never meant to forget. The bell, you hear it before you see it. A slow, hollow clang, dragging through the morning fog like a ghost with unfinished business. Clang, pause, clang, another pause, and then the words, soft at first, but unmistakable, "Bring out your dead." Suddenly, the cold doesn't feel so bad anymore. Not compared to this. You rush down from the attic. The air inside your home, once thick with smoke and sweat, and the sour temps now feels tighter, sharper. The fire sputters. No one speaks. Because when the plague came to town, it didn't knock politely. It kicked in the door, took your bread, coughed on your mother, and slept in your bed. And no amount of wool, straw, or warm pig snuggles could stop it. But here's the wild part. Even then, the peasants had a secret. No, not a cure, but something arguably just as important. Ritual, structure, belief, the illusion of control. They burned herbs in the corners. They carried pomanders filled with crushed cloves. They whispered prayers and bathed, yes, bathed in vinegar and urine. Don't ask whose. You don't want to know. And still, they endured. In a world that should have broken them, freezing nights, rotten food, sudden death, they didn't just survive. They adapted. They learned. They passed those gritty little tricks down through generations like heirlooms, wrapped not in velvet, but in burlap and smoke. But there's one thing we haven't talked about yet, something the peasants guarded more fiercely than firewood, food, or even health. A secret so vital, so strange, so intimate, it shaped how entire villages endured the darkest months. It's not found in a book, it's not carved in stone, but it's hidden in their stories, their rhythms, and the way they lit a candle against the dark. To find it, you'll have to go deeper, past the fire, past the frost, into the silence of a winter night when all is still, and someone is whispering a lullaby in a language you've never heard before. So, they should have frozen to death. By all modern logic, they should have, but they didn't, because medieval peasants weren't helpless, dirty background characters like the movies make them out to be. They were survivors, engineers of warmth, masters of make, do, or die, with pig-warmed beds, dung-insulated walls, squirrel stew, midnight gossip hours, and rituals that bordered on the magical. They did what humans always do. They found a way. And maybe, just maybe, there's something to learn from that. That even in the coldest, bleakest nights, when the world feels like it's cracking under frost and fear, resilience doesn't always look heroic. Sometimes It just looks like lighting one more fire, pulling someone close, and surviving the night together. If you found this dive into peasant survival as weirdly fascinating as I did, hit that like button, subscribe for more strange corners of history, and drop a comment below. What medieval hack would you actually try? And be honest, are you team pig in bed or not? I've got more icy secrets, forgotten hacks, and gritty medieval realities coming soon. So stick around, because winter is far from over. Our next video, we're pulling back the velvet curtain on the woman who ruled an empire while her body was silently betraying her. A queen whose limbs decayed while her power remained absolute. A body rotting in real time while her subjects still bowed and kissed her hand. And after that, we'll meet the Duchess who defied centuries of pressure because she knew her bloodline was a ticking time bomb. You've heard the myths. Now you'll see the real horror hidden behind royal lace and gold leaf. The portraits get darker from here.